harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zeimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zeimet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. My guest today is Brooke, Brimm, calling in from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you ready to have a good time?
I am.
Alrighty then. So, let's share with the audience, what exactly does Brooke do out there in Atlanta, Georgia?
Well, I am a metaphysical practitioner.
I like that.
I call myself a minister of mind, body, and spirit because that's easier for people to understand.
Right.
So I mostly work with women. I do self-discovery classes. I've written a couple books, 3 books. 4 books actually, because I run a very large Facebook group called Vegan Soul Food.
Ooh, I'm a vegan. That's cool. I got to join that group.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're approaching about 120K.
Wow.
1,000 people. Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
And so so when I say 4 books, I forgot that I wrote a cookbook, a Vegan Soul Food holiday cookbook for that group. That's on Amazon as well. So mostly I do self-discovery with women. We do retreats, we do groups, we do online classes. I also run another group called Metaphysical Black Women. That's about that's on Facebook. It's about 2,000 members. And I do conferences, retreats, and reverend kind of things.
Wow,
but in the realm of metaphysics. I'm also a certified yoga instructor, so I teach about 2 or 3 yoga classes a week.
Nice. Well. Nice. That's wonderful. Boy, I tell you, you're talking my language here, right up my alley. Because I've been in the metaphysical field for, I guess, probably all my life, but didn't really know that that's what it was. I grew up in the Midwest, so it's like, a long time ago, before you were probably even a thought,
Yeah.
So, but in the 80s kind of started my journey into that understanding and knowing what metaphysical was all about. So that is, I love it because it really explains more in depth of what the true meaning of spirituality is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get started in metaphysics?
Well, I was originally a Seventh-day Adventist. So
Okay.
I was raised in the Seventh-day Adventist Christianity denomination, right? And my grandmother was a Seventh-day Adventist, and my grandfather was a Seventh-day Adventist, and they started churches, and so that's kind of the realm that I grew up in. And when I got about 22, I became a lot more serious about being a Seventh-day Adventist instead of just taking what my mother and my grandparents gave me. I took it on and I became serious about it, and I gave my heart to Christ, and I was very serious. And then I started to become disillusioned, and I didn't feel like it was the path for me anymore.
Right.
So I spent about 2 years not doing anything. I read spiritual books and things like that, but I didn't attend any church, and I didn't call myself any religion. And I kept hearing about this minister here in Atlanta called Dr. Barbara and her church, Hillside. And I don't know if you know anything about Seventh-day Adventists, but
yes, I do.
They attend church on Saturday.
Right.
And they're very big about the Sabbath and Saturday.
Right.
Well, Dr. Barbara's church was on Sunday. And so that was a big paradigm shift for me to I was in graduate school for professional counseling, and some of the students kept telling me about her church and about her, and some of the books I was reading by Iyanla Vanzant were just, they were metaphysical, and they just all fit. But I couldn't make that shift from going to church on the Sabbath, Saturday Sabbath,
Right.
to Sunday. It felt like a huge betrayal. Well, Iyanla Van Zant, she was writing, the Fix My Life. Have you heard of her? Yeah,
I
Fix My
have.
Life.
I don't know. I
Okay,
really
yeah.
know much about her, but I do recognize the name.
Well,
Yes.
before she was fixing lives, she was like a huge metaphysical, guru for Black women. And I
Okay.
guess she still is, but the Fix My Life thing is a little different. Okay.
Right.
So at that time, this was about 20 years ago, she was speaking at Dr. Barber's church, Hillside. And I had bought the book, and I bought the book for my sister, and I bought us tickets to go up there and listen to her speak to the church. And I never heard her speak because my sister became ill and was taken out in the ambulance. So I was pregnant, and with my daughter who's about 19. I never got to hear Iyanla speak. We went in the ambulance to the hospital. And what struck me and what caused me to start going to that church is how they treated my sister afterwards. They sent her cards. They came to visit. They came to call.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, wow, that is something. You know what I mean? That is what I'm looking for. So I threw all my scary thoughts of going to church on Sunday aside, and I started going to Hillside. And one thing that you mentioned earlier about how metaphysics is just like, your natural spirituality, right? That's what it feels like. So when I went to that church, it just felt like, this is me. Oh, wow. This is what I had been coming to in my own studies and my own thoughts. This feels like me. Wow.
Right.
I didn't know anybody else believed like this. I didn't know any other people thought like this. This is amazing.
Yeah, I had those same thoughts, so I get it. That is so, that is just so real. And, and like you were saying, it was so foreign.
Yes.
That the adjustment, was, and spending time in a parochial school, 12 years, strict Catholic, I grew up in the country and stuff, and I really get it. And I went to school every day of my, church every day of my life, when I was, during the winter when school was going on, and you get in that, and it's so embedded and instilled in you that when you stop it, you just kind of look around like, okay, what's going to happen, right?
Exactly.
And so, I think our audience out there can really kind of get that too. And if you guys do, comment below. Let us know. Did you go through a major shift when you came to a realization, in your belief, whatever that belief is, and whatever, not necessarily religion, but where you've made some ultimate shifts in your life, because they are life-changing, right?
Yes. And I think that when you go through that point where you're challenging what has been given to you,
right,
and have the courage to shift your paradigm, I truly believe that is when, it's all your path. Everything, even prior to that, is your path.
right.
But I truly believe that that's when you start to realize that you're on a path and that you're on your path, because it takes courage. Prior to that, you're kind of walking along where someone has guided you by their hand. Come on, come this way. Let's go. This is where you're supposed to go. And then when you let go of their hand and you start walking down your own path, and like you start to know the way.
Right.
I think it's that moment when you have the courage to say, I'm going to shift my paradigm. I'm going to challenge what they gave me. And some people never do.
And that's their path, right?
And that's their path. And that's their path.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when I started walking the path, and I never stopped. And it led me to becoming a minister and a yoga instructor. And Seventh-day Adventism introduced me to veganism and vegetarianism. So, so the metaphysics, I can't really credit for that,
right.
But it all kind of works together. But yeah, so, but it, so I've been on the path for 20 years, and
that's
I'm just
amazing.
letting it take me where I go.
Yeah, and it's interesting, when you talk about veganism, right? And how it feeds the spirit and stuff too. Well, when I work a lot with the vibrations, right? So vibrational healing and different things like that. Well, it comes into the foods that you eat and how it shifts in the body and what it does, to your overall vibration in your digestive system and all of that, right? So I really get that. And I like what you said, you've done all these books, right? And you did a vegan cookbook. And, that just kind of sparked a little trigger in me because I kind of put it back here because I have one of those too, and I just...
A vegan cookbook?
And I just haven't really put it in the format, and it's like, you know what? I need to just dig that out and do all of these really cool recipes, and just stick it out there because it's so real, and it gives people an understanding too and a little difference on, different flavors and different foods, and I like exotic foods. I don't know about you, but I like to go to the Asian market.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's all we talk about in our group all day is the Asian market. Like the different places that we find all the different things.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting when you talk about the book that you haven't released yet, we live in an amazing time.
Yeah.
That you can pull it together. Like even if you go to Amazon, they have a tool there to lay out the whole book for you. You don't even have to hire a designer.
Right.
But if you chose to, you can get one very inexpensively. We just live in an amazing time.
We
that
do.
We can produce these things on our own.
Yeah.
Like the show that you're on right now, right? That
Right.
you're producing yourself. We can produce these things on our own. And we're just able to get information out, disseminate it, share it, bless each other with it.
Right.
And it's just like I feel so blessed to live during this time. I mean, because I know
Right.
that in the future, people won't even think about when the internet started or anything like that. It'll just be all taken for granted. They won't, it'll just be just like some distant history. But like I can remember in 1996 being pregnant with my first child and I was in junior college, walking into the library, and there was the internet, and I'm searching things. I was still Seventh-day Adventist at the time. So the first thing I was searching was Seventh-day Adventist documents and things like that. And the internet looked really like a bunch of pages back then.
Right.
But it's just it's just amazing to be alive at this time.
It's interesting how you say, okay, in 1997, the internet. My first exposure into the computer world. Are you ready for this one? I hope you're sitting down. 1969.
Wow.
Okay, I was a key punch operator. Now that goes way back, right?
Way back.
Yeah, but where the internet has gone and what it has done for us and where it has taken us in this whole new world, right? And I mentioned virtual reality. Actually, virtual reality has been around since like 1836 or something like that. Yeah, I know. I had the same look as you did. And so I have actually got a book I'm just finishing up on virtual reality. And and I've got several books out, and it's great. And I tell people, don't die with your story in you because it's too precious, right?
Yes.
And so and it has become easier and easier to produce whatever, whether it's a show or whether it's a book, and just even sharing your story on shows like this or podcast, and where does it take you? It's that message that you share. And Brooke, the story that you just gave is so real and so passionate, comes from the heart. And it's like, wow, so people that are on the fence. So if you're one of those out there that are on the fence, not sure where your life is taking you or what you're going to be doing in life, and you question your background, you question where you came from, what your past is, because it just kind of like doesn't fit in with who you are, it's okay to step up and get that courage. And it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And a lot of times you don't get support with it. So there's so much out there.
The thing that's interesting, Beverly, and it really just dawned on me just now as we're having this conversation. That whole experience is definitely the foundation of the work that I do now.
Right.
That is what that's what I encourage women to do. is to self-explore, self-discovery, and explore your spirituality. Because I know that on the other side of that exploration is that life that you really want and that freedom you want to experience.
Right.
So all of my work is devoted towards, I guess, encouraging women to have the encouraging courage, to have the courage,
right?
Yeah, to look at what we've been given and say, what is for me though? You know what I mean? So this is what they told me is for me, but like, what is for me? Right. What is truly for me? So I'm gonna just, this book that I wrote, Love God Herself.
I like that. That's a beautiful title.
It's yoga and mindfulness for Black women who follow the Christ, and it's about expanding the spirituality, encouraging Black women to expand their spirituality by considering mindfulness and yoga.
Right.
But the title of the book, Love God Herself, I mean, I really struggled with spirit about that title, because I was like, I don't want to say that. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. You know, and again, it goes back into that old programming, you know, all the way back programming, because you are making a paradigm shift. And that's exactly what happens, because it's all this belief that has been instilled in you by those that were in authority, where you believe that that was the way it is, and then all of a sudden something inside that inner conflict says that this just doesn't feel right, and to be able to step out of that box. And I think more and more people are beginning to do that. You talked about the internet, and you talked about, you know, you look at social media, right? And you've got, you know, several different groups, you know, that you've created just for that reason, support.
Just for that reason,
right?
And it's I think it has to do with the age of Aquarius, which is that.
That is so funny. I just saw that in my head. I was about ready to say, this is the age of Aquarius, and you say it, it's like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're no longer the top-down approach, but we're just out here sharing with each other, learning from each other, getting our blessings this way, and not just looking for a leader to tell you how it is. This is how it is. Now, don't go sin. You know, get out of here. I'll see you next week. You know, it's
well, it's being that leader within yourself, right? Finding that inner strength, because it's so impactful and so powerful, and you know, it's in everything. And then go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really do largely thank Donald Trump for allowing each person in our country to realize they have to be the president of them, because it looked a lot like nobody was at the wheel. You know, there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of different tweets, a lot of things that made us feel out of control.
Right.
And feeling like this is not how we're used to. We can't go to sleep, because this is not how we're used to a presidency showing up. This is not how we're used to a presidency showing up. And so it caused a lot of Americans to go within and say, "Ooh, I got to be the president of me." Right. You know what I mean? Because it's not happening. The things that I'm used to, the kind of speeches that I'm used to that make me feel okay, that make me feel I can go back up to my own life, we're not getting any of that. So, and I thank him for encouraging Americans, whichever side of the fence you're on, whether you voted for him or not, for encouraging Americans to be the president of them. Some because they just feel like they're against the system, some because they just didn't trust him at all. But I think that it's still part of the age of Aquarius, him being at the helm.
The message, and I agree with you there. You know, it's the message, you know, and sometimes again we talk about that uncomfortability. You know, our world here in 2020 has been dumped upside down with no predictability now. Just everything is in like unpredictable, right? And I look at it as being the awakening. you talk about the metaphysical, right? And that awakening, I've heard it for years and years and years and years and years, right? And all of a sudden, here we are.
I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me...
Because, I mean, I'm thinking about the Fifth Dimensions when they sang that song, The Age of Aquarius. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I was a little kid when they sang that song.
Right.
But when the Age of Aquarius actually came, was it 2012? Something? Yeah.
Well, we go through these different ages at different times. So the Age of Aquarius has actually gone on. I think this is, in my lifetime, I think this is the third round. Because back in the hippie days, was the Age of Aquarius. Right? Which basically...
Yeah, and so that's... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Basically amounts to the Age of Aquarius as being that age of being free, of that freedom, and being that expression, that inner expression of just who it is that you are. And again, it goes back into identity, and everything that you've been saying is identity, which is where we get started on our path. And my journey started in 1974, when my realization was, where's my identity, right? And that's taken me into doing what I do today.
Yes.
Right? And so what you're saying on how you made your shift and where it has led you to be who you are today. So it's recognizing those things and taking a look at where are your personal assets, and then begin capitalizing on them. Right?
Yeah. And I think that even if you don't know what your personal assets are, you're still going to be used for God's purpose, for the universe's purpose, but you may not benefit from it.
I think we all benefit from it one way or another.
I mean, you may live in, what I mean by that is, you may have these wonderful personal assets that you're completely unaware of.
Right.
But you were brought here in the image and likeness of God, so that doesn't mean that even if you're not aware of it, that you're not here for a purpose.
Yes, exactly.
And you may live in pain, turmoil, confusion, hurt, for all the way up until you close your eyes and go to the other side. And never really be fully aware, maybe just get small glimpses of who you are and what your personal assets are. So that's what I mean by you may not benefit.
Right.
But when you are fully awakened and steadily blossoming and opening up to this idea of what your personal assets are, then you get to experience the high vibration of the good life. You know what I mean? Because you're in that vibrational appreciation of, I have these assets. I'm great. I have something to give the world. I'm just not out here floating around. Whether you acknowledge that or not, you're still going to be given to the world. Who you are, what you're here to do is still going to happen.
Exactly.
But once you start getting that awakening, then you get to experience the high vibration of life because you're in appreciation of it. You're feeling fulfilled. It's almost like that at Maslow, you're in that self-actualization stage. You're feeling this amazing beat of life. But if you're not aware of it, you're still doing what you came here to do.
Yeah, in total unconsciousness of it, right.
Yeah, you're personally not experiencing the high vibration of it. You might be doing it, but you're experiencing the low vibration and feeling like you're nothing and you have nothing to offer while you're steadily baking beautiful cakes and you're giving wonderful advice to people at the bus stop and you're making, you're writing, you're giving instructions, you're doing all the things that you came here to do, but you're totally not cognizant of it. So the being cognizant and self-exploring and being awakened to who you are is really for the benefit of you and your enjoyment of life.
Right. And that's why it's all about self. A lot of people are, have that concept again, and that was a taught, to be, quiet, do as I say and not as I do type of thing, right? And so that inner conflict is there. But like you said, that awakening. And if you're unsure about what your qualities are, ask people around you, say, can you just share one thing about me that would be an asset. And you are going to be amazed, probably blown out of the water, what people will start sharing with you. And don't take it lightly. It's okay to brag upon yourself. It's okay to pat yourself on the back, right? That's learning how to love the self, right? Yeah. And when you can bring that love energy in, because you're an expression of it, by these assets, like you say, going unaware, thinking that you're not amounting to anything. So whether it is baking that beautiful cake or, whatever it is, you're giving someone something they need to make that shift in their life. And that's what's really important. If you have a story, share it. It will change someone else's life. And if only one person, out of all the millions that hear it, if one person gets the message and it changes their life, it was all worth it, right?
And one person is like a seed.
Yes.
One person has a million trees inside. You know what I mean? Or it just goes on and on.
Right.
So even if you just change that one person, you can never know how many people they will change and what that will do, what their words will do, and how that will carry on in generation after generation.
Yeah, that whole ripple thing going on. Oh.
Yeah. So you might think it's just one person, but it's just huge. It's just huge.
Right.
Huge.
They could be the next Billy Graham, right?
Yes, it's how spirit works. It just keeps going on and on and on. And that's the beauty of living and being alive.
It is, because if you're not living, you're dying, right?
Yeah.
There's so many beautiful things out there. And, even with the pandemic that's going on, the shifting and the changes that are happening, and we really see that distancing of the duality world. Okay, so I wrote a book quite a few years ago on what side of the fence are you on? So this whole duality thing. Because again, that's kind of where we are in our life, where that conflict is. Right? So how do we go beyond that? So you have the extremes.
Yeah.
Right? So when you look at where am I on this pendulum swinging? Right? Mm-hmm. What side of the fence am I on? Am I straddling? Because you're going to be, depending on what event's going on in your life, you might be straddling here. Mm-hmm. And that's when that whole big aha moment comes, and you make that paradigm shift when you're right there on the fence trying to figure out, do I jump this way or do I jump that way, right? But it's that recognizing. So begin to really pay attention and recognize those thoughts. And sometimes it's not easy when you're in it. And so share with other people. Know the people you can talk to that are going to be there to support you and give you guidance. And not those that are going to just break you down and say, just do as I do and not as I say, and because I said so, and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you just got your new nugget and your new awakening, the last thing you want to do is to take it to someone who is ill-equipped. Right. Like if you notice that they are not doing that great in their lives, you don't want to take your new nugget over there and announce, I got this new nugget. Just prepare yourself for them to try to knock it out of your hand,
Right, they rain on your parade, right? Well, and that's
everyone is
true.
not equipped for, just because they're your loved one. And really, this is what I'm really talking about, loved ones, right? Because that's who we want to run. When we get something new and exciting, a new nugget, a new awakening, we want to run straight to our loved ones and tell them, look at me, I'm walking, look, Mom, I'm walking, something new. You want to show it. You have to, and you may not be at this point right away, but it is worth exploring down the line.
Right.
If you notice, if you you're in a new marriage, per se, you got a new husband, you love this guy, it's your new marriage, and your mom has gone through about 3 or 4 husbands, 3 or 4 marriages. Just because she's your mom and you love her and she loves you, you probably shouldn't share with her any of your marital issues or anything about your marriage because she hasn't been tried. She's not tried and true in terms of making it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that one.
Yeah, so she's ill-equipped. She's ill-equipped to help you in that realm, and so therefore, you probably shouldn't be taking that to her. And the same thing is if you have, loved ones that all they've done, if they've been Catholic and they've stayed Catholic their whole lives, and you decide to become metaphysical or Buddhist or anything, and you want to run and tell them about your new awakening, they're not going to be able to relate because they haven't had an awakening like that. Right. Not a whole big shift. So don't get your feelings hurt if they can't support you. It doesn't mean they don't love you. It doesn't mean they don't want the best for you. Right. It's not something that they can wrap their head around.
Yeah, their belief system is still where yours once was, right? And
don't get it. And
that's totally relevant.
You can't get your feelings hurt. You can't be like, I don't talk to them anymore because they don't accept me. They do accept you. They just cannot relate.
Right. Honor. It's all about honoring them for who they are. If you want them to honor you for who you are. And it's a very real experience. But what I found in that scenario myself was just staying on my path, making the shifts and the changes within my belief system. Right. Now I've got 10 brothers and sisters, so this was a good test, okay? All the shifting and everything that I've done over the years, working in that metaphysical aspect, coming out of that deep Catholic, right? As the years went by, you're changing within who you are, changes, the world without. And I found, especially my sisters, not so much my brothers at first, but my sisters, all of a sudden coming to me, asking different questions and, belief systems, and really looking from a different perspective of guidance is like, I want to live like you do. I don't want to have this old stuff anymore. How do I do that? When you don't push, but when you just show and you just be, is what it's all about, because that's how we learn. And that ripple effect that we talked about earlier, regardless of what it is in your life, when you change in here, because the only person you really have charge of is you. And become aware. Recognize. What's the conflict? What are you going to do with it? Because when you can surrender is not giving up. When you can surrender to the circumstance that you have no control over, now you can look at it from a different perspective and say, what are the things that I can shift here and move either through it, over it, under it, around it, so that it's not impacting me in an uncomfortable manner. And you will find your way through that. And it won't be a fear-based. So when you remove the conflict, you remove the battle, and now there's no war, and it's a win-win. Right? So it sounds easy. It's simple. But it's not easy, and it's that awareness. Easy, yeah. It's that awareness. Yeah. Really start to be conscious of your thoughts, of your actions, of your directions, and observe what's going on. And again, like you said, that awakening. Go inside here and say, where do I need to change? And that goes back to the theme of the show. Being best present. You that you can be. Right?
Oh, I love it. Being the best you that you can be.
Yeah, so what can you do every day to change that?
It really is about being present.
Of course.
Fully present.
Yes.
And because when you're fully present, then you can realize that I'm okay in this moment.
Yeah.
And if I'm not okay, what am I feeling? And if I'm feeling that, what made me feel that? Where did it come from? Like you can start, if you're fully present, you can kind of peel back and understand, okay, so I feel that way because when I was a little kid, this happened and it made me believe this way. Oh, well, I'm not a little kid anymore.
Exactly.
That's not a thing that I need to be concerned about. I actually can live in my fullness right now. But it is, many people don't realize how much time they spend in the future and in the past.
Yeah.
And not now, not here present. So, and then they wonder why I have depression. Well, because you're rehearsing things that you can't change, and it keeps you from you being able to express, your full expression now. You're rehearsing things you can't change, and that rehearsing of what you can't change then makes you fear what you can't know, which causes anxiety. So you have the depression, you have the anxiety, you fear what you can't know, you're rehearsing what you can't change, and you're skipping where you are right now.
And that's a precious moment because it's all you have, right?
It's what you have. It's what you have. And if we could really get into the practice of being present right here, right now, we would find that a lot of things are solved.
Right.
Just being present. We could be, what's the theme of your show? Being the best that you can be.
Being the best you that you can be.
Being the best you that you can be. Yes. And the best you that you can be, believe it or not, people would never want to believe this. The best you that you can be is right now.
Exactly.
It's right now. It's not future tense. It's not when you get the house, finish the degree,
exactly.
New car, start going. It's right here, right now. It's what you're doing in this moment. Like if you just take a moment right now and acknowledge what are you doing right now in this moment. That is the best you that you can be.
Right.
And then you just keep carrying that forward.
Exactly.
Or back, but going back there, you can't change.
No, that's done. No, that is completely done.
Change that.
The past, that's what they call it, past, right?
Yeah.
Days gone by,
It's gone.
And
it's nothing you could do. You can't be, I was a big deal. I was a big cheerleader, or, I wish I hadn't said that thing. None of those things. Nothing. It's all gone. All you can do is be your best self right now.
Because tomorrow isn't promised. It may never show up.
It's not. It may not.
Yeah.
It may not. The next minute may not show up.
Yeah.
You don't know. The only thing you have is what you're doing right now, and live in appreciation for that.
And that's exactly what Britt and I are doing right now. We're enjoying each other's company. We've never met until she jumped on the show here today. And this conversation has taken us into a connection of the beauty in the world from one human to another. And that's special. This is a very special moment. And we're joining you out there now to share the importance of how you can connect, even in such a disarray and disconnected world. You can still connect, and that human element really needs that connection, because we weren't meant to be separated or segmented, right? It's unity. We are all one in the likeness of. And so therefore, we're all connected. Somewhere down the line, we all have that same little piece in the DNA that we were all designed with from the beginning of the human element coming into force. And so when you can recognize that good in yourself, it's easier to recognize the good in others, and vice versa. Because your eyes are the reflection through the eyes of someone else. If you are looking at someone and they're irritating you, it's a reflection, and it's time to turn around and say, whoa, what is it about that person that's making me feel uncomfortable? Because you probably have that little trait inside yourself that makes you uncomfortable, that you've shoved in a corner somewhere and slammed the door, right? Or whatever the case may be, to say, wow, here's an opportunity for me to do what? Make me a better me today, because I'm going to take a look at that and say, wow, I've been running on autopilot with that. I don't need this anymore, right?
Right. I think I posted a meditation yesterday. I went to the mountains, and I got, when I get up there and get quiet, I get all these epiphanies. So I recorded this meditation about dealing with difficult people.
Okay.
it was all about guiding the listener to focus on the light. Well, first of all, the agreement that we're all made of light. Right. And then focus on the light in the other person that you may feel like all they're doing is expressing darkness, right? You may feel like all they're doing is expressing darkness. But if you believe that we're all made of light, maybe you can find a little teeny bit of light at the center of that person. And if you focus and radiate love towards that light, and imagine it growing and growing and growing and getting bigger and encompassing their whole selves. But then also focus on the light within you.
Right.
However big you think that is. However big you think that is. Focus on that. And then imagine yourself matching your light to their light. And imagine both lights growing bigger. And then when you interact with this person who's difficult, right? Because we're all difficult. It's all of us.
Oh yeah, it sure is.
When you interact with this person you feel that is difficult, if you just focus on the light, then it can be easier. And not just focus on their light, but also on your light.
Right.
You know, because the reason when we have these clashes and these difficulties with each other, it's really when I forget that I'm an expression of God and you forget your expression of God, and boom, we're ready to go at it. Right. But if we can remember to focus on the light within ourselves and within others, then it becomes not a non-issue.
Right. That's beautifully said. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can start to, because one thing that you said earlier was about finding something about yourself that you like. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people, because of the chatter, because of what they've been told, because of how they've been raised, because of advertising,
right.
Because of everything, church, all the different institutions, hospitals, all of it, they have a lot of reason to walk away with not being able to find things about themselves that they like or love.
Right.
That's a very real thing. So I really try to encourage people when I work with them to embrace the lightness and the darkness, because the darkness it's not really real. What it really is labels.
Exactly.
That other people have put on you. It's labels, because when you're a little kid, we can all go back to when we were small, our earliest memories, and we didn't think anything that anybody thought of us. All we thought about is our playing, our having a good time, just relaxing, being us, and just feeling the fullness of just being ourselves. And then you start to go out into institutions like daycare or school or whatever, church and things, and they tell you you're a sinner, you're the smart one, you're the dumb one, you don't listen, you talk too much, all these things,
Right.
And then it be all of those kind of labels, whether they're well meant or not, they start to become what we call the dark parts of ourselves, or the things of ourselves that need to be changed, that need to be improved, the things I need to work on, my flaws. And they're not. Though all of those things are you. If you were talkative, if you talk a lot, like that's what the label they gave me in school, talks too much, talkative. Right. She didn't even have to write it in. It was like a little box that they could check off. That's how they were going to box us, right? They didn't have to write
that's
it
true.
in.
Very true.
Yeah. So I got the label as talkative, and so then I hear that and I see that as a little negative check on my report card, and it makes me start thinking I need to work on to be less talkative. I should talk less, because talking is bad. And then you become older and older and older, and you think that that's a shadow of yourself, a flaw, a bad part of yourself, but it's you, and it's meant to offer something to the world.
Yes.
So now I talk, and I know that my talking is a blessing.
It is, and it's delivering a beautiful message, with the show here today. It's been such a blessing having you here and sharing this information, because it's very enlightening, it's very encouraging, and it's inspiring. And that's what the show is meant to have happen. So the audience that's listening out there, comment below. Let us know what you liked about Britt's story here today, because it's just been fascinating and really directional. And again, it's all about taking that time to appreciate yourself and then appreciate what's around you. Change the things you can. Leave the rest behind. Don't worry about tomorrow. It may never get here. And really live life to its fullest in the moment that you have. Britt, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
You can find me at brookebrim.com, BROOKEBRIMM.com. From there, you will find me on, you can find me on Facebook, same name, brookebrim.com, Instagram, brookebrim.com, YouTube, brookebrim.com. I'm all over social media. But, my website there, you can find my books and all the latest things that I'm doing. I try to keep that updated. My classes. I have a new class, discussion class, that is a companion to I released a journal. It's so interesting. During this Corona period, and everybody's like, Corona's terrible, it's 2020. Right. I actually released 2 books this year. So it hasn't been bad for me. So it's all about your focus. But anyway, right. So I released a journal that's a companion to the book that I just showed you, Love God Herself in the Journal. So the book is about the Black woman's journey in America, but the journal, do I have one? I don't know. The journal is actually for any woman who is looking for that inner healing, inner guidance, inner wisdom, and the expansion of your spirituality. So it's a journal that takes excerpts from the book, and you go through and you can write your, kind of explore yourself. Right. But I also just finished up a discussion series that's a companion to the journal, because the questions are sometimes so interesting and so different, right, that I felt like a discussion series. So I got together a group of 5 women and myself, and we went through each journaling excerpt and the prompts, and we discussed them at length. And so it's a companion to the journal. So I encourage anyone who's looking for, any woman, because I mostly work with women. I do couples work sometimes when my husband is with me. But any woman that's looking for that self-exploration experience, who is thinking about shifting her paradigm in terms of spirituality, I think you would really enjoy the journal, because it's kind of going to be, it's based on a book that I wrote, but it's also going to be based on, especially the discussion series, based on just what I talked about here, my whole journey that I had to walk, right, to break free from what I was given into what feels good to me and what brought me peace, joy, and happiness. So,
and that's the end result that we all want to get, right? Is that peace, that harmony, that I feel good in my skin bag here, my little physical, my physical avatar, right? Yes. And so, thank you so much for being here, Britt. It was a pleasure. We're going to have you back on the show, talk a little bit more maybe about meditations, talk about yoga and how that makes the shift. So a lot of intriguing things, a lot of great information, and a lot of ways to grow in the spirit of who we are. So thank you again so much for being here. It's time now to say, go out there and be that best you that you can be, because Britt and I, we're going to be the best we that we can be, and we'll see you all in another show. Thanks for joining us.